Hi, I'm Gabriel Hernandez. I'm with Watcher DM, and today I'm going to go ahead and walk you through our adventure guide for Dark Side of the Mind by Ethan Myers. I had the privilege of doing the art for this adventure. This is a 5e adventure for 4 level 2 characters. This is a collaboration with Liars for Hire. Let's dive right into it. Had a lot of fun making this one. It is a spelljammery kind of adventure, so if your party isn't in space, this may not work. Although you can still make it work by swapping out the moon for something else that a mimic could be. There's the take is the moon that you are going to is in fact a mimic. We start off with our contents and credits and the adventure hooks. Some of these adventure hooks are really interesting. Dwarf in distress is your standard distress signal response, but we give it a little bit of flavor. Coming Unglued turns it into a medical mystery adventure. So you're bringing these dwarves medicine to help deal with the symptoms of a strange disease that has befallen them. Of course, that disease is sticky fingers, which is described later. It comes from breathing in mimic dust. Save the Mimic allows your characters to play eco activists, which is a super fun premise in that you're going to disrupt an established mining operation for ecological reasons. I think it's kind of a fun one. And this one has the most interesting reward in that each party member gets a bow tie sized baby mimic that they can raise, which I don't know if that tickles your heart, but it tickles mine. So it's one of the cooler, I think, rewards we've ever put in an adventure. All That Glitters is the kind of core premise, which is a mining company has been getting counterfeit ore from these dwarves, and so need to go arrest Lousy Linebeard and bring her to justice. Disable the counterfeiting operation and recover the evidence. Pretty cool set of hooks, I think. We really pushed our limits in coming up with some fun ways to play out this adventure. Of course, we have our overview, which is really straightforward. The general environmental effects are something you'll find in a lot of Watcher DM adventures where something about the environment, something about the context of the adventure is kind of ever present. So moonquakes every 35 minutes of real time, or whenever thunder damage is dealt, the mimic shudders and destabilizes the chamber. This is a DC 12 dexterity saving throw to become restrained, so they become stuck into the surface of the moon or the mimic. This definitely can have a chaotic impact on combat when it happens. So yeah, just keep a timer running. You might want to change it to 30 minutes instead of 35 minutes if that's easier for you to track. But most important is just watch for thunder damage if it happens. Go ahead and trigger one of these. Moon dust will also get kicked up when there's a quake, or when explosives are set off, or when any kind of mining is done. And moon dust requires a Constitution saving throw DC 12, or whoever is afflicted develops sticky fingers. If you have facial protection, you cannot contract sticky fingers. Sticky fingers is you get advantage on grapple checks and +2 AC. So it's kind of a buff, but you're vulnerable to slashing damage and must make a strength athletics check, DC 12, as part of any action to put an object down. So once you've picked something up, you're kind of committed. So dropping objects and things like that becomes trickier. All the enemies in this adventure are affected by this, so they will not change weapons. Except for Lousy. Lousy does not have sticky fingers. And if the party contracts sticky fingers, it can be a lot of fun when all of a sudden, they want to try and switch to their melee weapon from their crossbow or whatever, and all of a sudden they can't. They can't just kind of pass that strength test. So it is a lot of fun. On page 3, we've got the map. This is a cutaway kind of vertical rendition of, so landing pads out here, the shed and the drop shaft are here. And then it goes into the overhead cutaway of the mining compound itself. We did not illustrate the actual mine shafts, the idea being that they have largely collapsed at this point, so that the miners are kind of trying to redig new shafts out of this central corridor. Ceilings within the mine are 8 feet tall. Pretty straightforward. Also, there are 6 regular glue beards or mutated space dwarves in this adventure, and then the 7th dwarf is Lousy Linebeard, their foreman. We've got a fun little role-playing blip here for each one that you can use. Feel free to write your own. We just thought this was a fun way to kind of, each time they encounter dwarves, they're going to have a name tag. And if you play them up to these, they can be kind of easier to tell apart. Also, they can be fun to kind of play, loud and unreasonable, mouthy the dwarf, or paunchy the dwarf, or grubby is nervous and rambly. Scuzzy is belligerent and gross, picking his nose. Terrified of water, never takes a bath. Tipsy is drunk and touchy. Yeah, he's just trying to grab everybody's, whatever. Have fun role-playing the dwarves. We start off on the launch pad. Now, this is something that isn't really written in here, but I would advise thinking ahead of time about how the party is going to approach. So based on what they're coming to do could impact how they're going to land. And honestly, landing is half the fun. If the party lands and crushes the dwarves that are there, like my last party did, that's 2 dwarves down, and you can use your ship as a weapon. Pretty fun idea. If you're showing up to do, bring medicine or whatever, then that interaction is going to be different. You're going to be approaching peacefully and probably be surprised when Stabby and Tipsy are uninterested in taking medicine and kind of become crazy. There is also a space truck here that is just kind of sunk into the surface of the moon. It's kind of uninteresting, but the party can use it if they crash land to get out of here and escape. And then we've got the mutated space dwarf stat block. These are Gluebeards. This is a unique creature to our adventure. So they have sticky fingers. They're half mimic, afflicted with mimic type behaviors, and they carry bladed shovels, and they will lob goo at you. Pretty fun little characters. They speak Common and Dwarven, and they are lawful evil. In the shed and drop shaft, so this area exposes the party to the opportunity to get a face mask in the ooze jars. This will help prevent the effects of mimic dust if the party takes it. It's totally possible that they won't, feeling like putting a jar of ooze on your face might be a bad thing. Have fun with that. If the party refuses to put on air, breathing protection, go nuts. It can be really fun. There's also a barrel of boom goo here that if the party is reckless might become destroyed. Yeah, there's a chasm that opens up that they need to climb down. Climbing down is relatively easy, but it does trigger the teeth trap. So as the mimic detects the party's climbing down its throat, it clamps shut around them. So they need to make a dexterity saving throw DC 12 to avoid taking 1d8 damage. And holding on is another strength athletics check. Of course, the bottom is filled with ooze, that same ooze that's in the face masks. And so that could be another way to give them the sense that the stuff is fine, like it's not going to hurt them. And that will take us right into the refinery. The refinery is a pretty intense encounter in that this is the first time they meet the mutated canary. There's a lot going on in here. So the large machinery is described here and how it works with the mimithril ore is kind of what we've termed it here. There's some plates for making fake ingots of different types, which is pretty fun. There is Gluebeard Scuzzy is working here. He's trying to re-clear some collapsed tunnels. There's 2 exits from this room. Well, I guess 3 exits. One is to the cafeteria, and one is to the foreman's office. And then, of course, back out the way they came. Because of that, I have had this encounter go a few different ways. And I would just largely be ready for the party to use the boom goo in a destructive way. If they, acknowledge what it is, be ready to have Grubby and Paunchy, come join the fight if that's what's going on. Or if you're doing this as more of a social encounter, this is a great opportunity for the party to, be trying to heal or engage with the dwarves that are transmogrified or messed up, while having a mutated canary try and fight them. Pretty fun. Then you get into the cafeteria. And in the cafeteria, playing the crazed chef is a lot of fun. Mouthy Meat Smash is a totally nuts territorial chef, and he has some clampires, which are these little vampire clams that are used for nutrition down here. They will not attack dwarves or the mimic, so they are mostly going to attack the party, and they can fly a little bit. It's like they have 30-foot fly speed. They have very low hit points, but a 15 armor class, which makes them nothing, and they heal when they do damage. So it can be a lot of fun kind of pestering the party with these clampires while they're trying to deal with the chef. Now, chef is kind of a jerk, but he gets legendary actions. So one thing to note here is that he gets 3 legendary actions as legendary actions work. and he can use one of them on anybody's turn to use a clam knife to make a melee attack. Doesn't do a ton of damage, but again, it's these tentacles. Like, he's swinging away with this cleaver, and every once in a while, or anytime a party member attacks him on the round, at the end of their action, he'll get an opportunity to kind of slash at them, up to the 3 that he has access to. That can be a really fun encounter. Also, there is a trap in the kettle that it will explode, causing this to explode with something from the refinery, maybe, or acknowledging, recognizing what it is and using it as a way to damage Mouthy is an interesting use of this trap. So be ready to kind of have this thing ready to go off. It can also be a way to punish your players if they're a little too aggressive with their destructive forces. Like, it goes off 4d6 fire damage. Everything within 10 feet is kind of a lot. And if the party manages to depressurize it and eat the chowder, it makes the clampires unwilling to attack. So that's kind of a cool effect. And then we get into the foreman's quarters. Lousy Limebeard is a bearded lady foreman. She has control of a tranquilizer. This tranquilizing machine is plugged into the mimic and is keeping it in a state of kind of torpor so that it won't expunge them or push them out. She has a sonic drill, which she'll use to attack. It can also be used to carve out mines. There's a broken iron birdcage in here for where the mutated canary kind of used to live. And then we've got a call out to Shawshank Redemption with the poster hiding the secret room where Lousy keeps their clampires, their private stash of clampires, and their loot, which is a fairly reasonable stack of gold, stack of love letters from the foreman's partner, and a charge pack for the sonic drill, as well as a canister of clampire repellent. So yet another way to avoid clampire attacks. Lousy themselves has 45 hit points, so this is a pretty reasonable fight. They also have a lens of mimic detection, which is a very fun item to give the party if you want to use mimics and have them feel like it's not always just a gotcha. Is you can really it's kind of a fun idea, but like, imagine walking into a town with a lens of mimic detection and realizing that like a good 60% of this place is mimics just kind of waiting for their moment, right? You could really do some really fun stuff with this. Make somebody not ever want to wear it again, but also to provide the party with a way of detecting mimics that otherwise usually isn't available. So mimic detection, cool magic item. And then the sonic drill again inflicts thunder damage, and it's a pretty cool weapon that they can use as well. Now, in the dramatic escape, we provide a skill challenge kind of set that the party can do. And my advice on this is just to keep it going. Like, oh, we've got to predict the timings of the moonquakes as we're escaping. Avoid the sticky walls or floors. Dodge pseudopods that are trying to pull you back. There's plumes of mimic dust that you're trying to escape, and then climb the drop shaft in a hurry, and then pilot the ship getting out. Avoiding the tongue as the mimic moon attacks. You can really make this pretty fun, I think. Just put some stakes in it and let the party have a blast trying to get away from the mimic. This dramatic escape works for the vast majority of the adventure hooks. I would say with the pregnancy hook or the eco-activist hook, Save the Mimic, you probably could do something a little bit different where the party disabling the tranquilizer causes the mimic to come to, probably does still have a violent reaction, but maybe the offspring are born of that reaction and kind of come out with the party as they escape, and then they can maybe interact with the mimic after they've been exhaled or pushed out. So yeah, that is Dark Side of the Mine. Again, an adventure by Ethan Meyer from Liars for Hire. You can find out more about Ethan and his work at liarsforhire.com. I did the illustrations for this of Gabriel Hernandez at WatcherDM. If you're interested in seeing more of our work, you can find us at watcherdm.com. You can also find us on DriveThruRPG or itch.io. The links will be down below. If you have any ideas that you'd like to give us about how to make this adventure even better, or if you ran this adventure and have stories of your own and how things went a little differently, we'd love for you to sound off in the comments below. I look forward to making the next one of these videos. Should be coming up tomorrow, where we'll be covering Bitter Feast, our winter social 20th level adventure for 5e. I hope you have a wonderful day, and thanks so much for joining me today. Stay weird.